My husband told my mother-in-law in Korean that he got my best friend pregnant, but they didn't know I was fluent. I never thought my K-drama obsession would destroy my marriage. Or maybe it saved me. I'm still not sure which. It started innocuously enough. I was homesick from work, scrolling through streaming services, when I landed on this Korean drama about a prosecutor and a defense attorney. I told myself I'd watch one episode. 6 hours later, I'd finished half the season. I was hooked. For 2 years, I kept it secret. It felt embarrassing somehow, like a guilty pleasure I couldn't explain. My husband Jake would come home to find me watching documentaries or cooking shows, never knowing I'd been binge-watching romantic dramas from Seoul. I learned Korean through subtitles first, then found myself picking up phrases, understanding conversations. Eventually, I started taking online classes late at night when Jake was asleep, practicing pronunciation with headphones on. I never told anyone. Not Jake, not my best friend, not even my sister. It was my private world, my escape from the monotony of corporate law and the subtle disappointments of a 7-year marriage that had become more routine than romance. Then his parents visited from Seattle for the weekend. Jake's mother had never quite warmed to me, though she maintained a polite facade. His father was kinder, quieter. We'd just finished dinner, and I was clearing plates when I heard them switch to Korean in the living room, speaking in that easy way people do when they think they're in a safe space. "So you finally got what you wanted?" his mother asked. Her voice had that particular tone mothers use when they're worried but trying not to show it. Jake's response made my hands stop moving. "Yes. She's 8 weeks along now." The plate I was holding nearly slipped. I gripped it tighter, forcing myself to keep loading the dishwasher. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat. "And Vera suspects nothing?" his mother pressed. "Nothing. She has no idea." His father's voice was troubled. "This situation with her friend? It's delicate. I have it under control," Jake said, with the confidence of someone who thought he'd covered every angle. "She'll never find out." I closed the dishwasher as quietly as I could, though the rushing sound in my ears made everything feel distant and muffled. My reflection in the kitchen window stared back at me, pale and strange. I recognized the words, understood the implications, but my brain felt like it was moving through fog. 8 weeks. Her friend. Never find out. I walked back into the living room with a smile I'd practiced 1,000 times in courtroom depositions. "Anyone want coffee?" Jake looked up, completely relaxed. "That'd be great, babe." His mother's eyes met mine for just a second, searching for any sign that I'd understood. I kept my expression pleasant, blank. She nodded slowly and turned back to her son. I made coffee with hands that somehow didn't shake, served it with a steady smile, made small talk about their flight, about Jake's father's golf game, about nothing at all that mattered. When they left the next morning, I hugged his mother and thanked her for visiting, and she held on just a fraction longer than necessary, as if trying to decide whether to say something. After they drove away, Jake pulled me into his arms. "That went well. They really love you, you know." "I know," I said softly, already planning my next move. The decision crystallized in that moment. I wouldn't confront him. Not yet. Not until I knew everything. Not until I had proof, documentation, leverage. 7 years of marriage had taught me that Jake was careful, methodical. Whatever he was hiding, he'd hidden it well, but he'd made one critical mistake. He'd assumed I was still the woman he married, the one who smiled and nodded through his parents' Korean conversations, oblivious and content. That woman was gone, and he had no idea. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of watching Jake like I'd never really looked at him before. The way he checked his phone constantly, angling the screen away from me. How he'd started going to the gym at odd hours. The new cologne I pretended not to notice. I documented everything in a password-protected folder on my laptop. Times, dates, observations. My legal training kicked in automatically. Build the case, gather evidence, stay calm. Then she showed up at my door on a Tuesday evening. My best friend since college, the one who'd been my maid of honor, who knew me better than anyone. She looked terrible, her eyes red and puffy, mascara smudged. "Can I come in?" Her voice cracked. "Of course." I pulled her inside, my stomach already churning. Some part of me knew. I'd known since that conversation in Korean, but I'd been hoping I was wrong. We sat on the couch, the same couch where Jake's parents had sat 3 weeks earlier. She twisted a tissue in her hands, starting to cry before she'd said a word. "I don't know how to tell you this," she whispered. I waited. The lawyer in me knew when to stay silent. "I'm pregnant." My face must have shown the right amount of shock because she kept talking, the words tumbling out between sobs. 8 weeks along. Completely unexpected. She wasn't ready for this. Didn't know what to do. Who's the father? I asked. Keeping my voice gentle, supportive. Inside, I felt like I was watching myself from somewhere far away. She looked down. It's complicated. Does he know? Yes, but she shook her head. I can't tell you who it is. I'm sorry. It's too messy. I'm going to do this alone. I reached over and took her hand. Even though touching her made my skin crawl. You don't have to go through this alone. I'm here for you. The gratitude in her eyes was genuine. So were the tears. But there was something else there too. Something I'd never seen before. Guilt, yes, but also a strange sort of triumph. Like she'd won something she'd been competing for without me knowing there was even a game. Thank you, she whispered. I was so scared to tell you. I don't know what I thought. We sat there for another hour. She told me about the morning sickness, the fear, the plans to move forward as a single mother. I played my part perfectly, offering support, asking questions, never once revealing that I'd already connected every single dot. 8 weeks. The exact time frame Jake had mentioned. Her refusal to name the father. The way she kept glancing at our wedding photo on the mantle. Something unreadable crossing her face each time. After she left, I stood at the window watching her drive away. The fall evening was getting dark. Leaves scattered across our yard. Everything looked normal from the outside. Our nice house in the suburbs, 2 cars in the driveway, neighbors walking their dogs. But normal was a lie I'd been living for years, I realized. I'd convinced myself that routine meant stability, that comfort meant happiness, that a marriage could coast on autopilot forever without anyone noticing it had flatlined. Jake came home an hour later, carrying takeout Chinese food. Hey, babe. Thought we could have a quiet night in. Perfect. I smiled at him. Actually, I have news. My best friend stopped by earlier. His expression didn't change, but I saw his shoulders tense just slightly. Oh yeah? How is she? She's pregnant. Can you believe it? I watched his face carefully. 8 weeks along. She won't say who the father is, though. Says it's complicated. That's... wow. He set the food down on the counter. How are you feeling about it? Shocked, obviously. But happy for her. I moved closer to him. I told her we'd support her however we can. I hope that's okay. Of course. He pulled me into a hug. Over his shoulder, I could see his reflection in the kitchen window. His eyes were closed and his jaw was tight. You're such a good person. Vera, he murmured into my hair, always taking care of everyone. I learned from the best, I said, and felt him relax against me. That night, lying in bed beside him, I stared at the ceiling while he slept, or pretended to sleep. I could no longer tell the difference. The man I'd promised forever to was a stranger. The friend I'd trusted with my secrets had betrayed me in the deepest way possible. But they'd also given me something. Clarity. Purpose. The cold, sharp focus I used in the courtroom when I knew I had the winning case. I just had to be patient enough to present it. The next 6 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. Or maybe I became exactly who I needed to be. The line blurred. I threw myself into the role of supportive friend with an intensity that should have been suspicious if either of them had been paying attention. I offered to go to prenatal appointments with my best friend, helped her research strollers and cribs, sent her articles about pregnancy nutrition. Every text message, every concerned phone call was calculated to make her trust me, to make her believe I had no idea. You're being so amazing about this, she said one afternoon as we sat in her obstetrician's waiting room. She was 12 weeks along now, just starting to show. I was worried you'd judge me for doing this alone. Why would I judge you? I squeezed her hand. You're one of the strongest people I know. She looked away, and I saw tears forming. Sometimes I wonder if I'm making a huge mistake, if I should just tell him he needs to be involved. The father? I kept my voice neutral. Do you want that? I don't know what I want anymore. She wiped her eyes. He says he wants to be there. He says things will be different soon, that he'll figure it out. My heart rate spiked, but my expression stayed sympathetic. Different how? She caught herself. Nothing. Forget it. I'm just emotional. At home, I was the perfect wife. I cooked Jake's favorite meals, suggested weekend getaways, initiated intimacy. It made me sick, but I needed him comfortable, confident that everything was fine, that I was still the oblivious wife who loved him without question. He ate it up, literally. 3 nights a week I made dinner from scratch, and he'd compliment me, kiss my cheek, tell me how lucky he was. Sometimes I'd catch him checking his phone during these domestic scenes, typing something quickly, then looking back at me with that easy smile. Work stuff? I'd ask innocently. Just putting out fires, he'd say, pocketing the phone. 2 weeks after my friend's doctor's appointment, we had dinner with Jake's parents again. They drove down from Seattle, and we met at a Korean restaurant downtown. I'd suggested it, watching Jake's face when I did. He'd hesitated for just a second before agreeing. The evening was a masterclass in what I'd learned over the past 2 months. While Jake and his parents spoke in Korean, discussing the menu and commenting on the restaurant, I pretended to study my phone, but I heard every word. "She doesn't suspect?" his mother asked in Korean, her voice low. "Nothing," Jake replied in the same language. "She's been amazing, actually. Supportive of the situation without even knowing it." His father sounded concerned. "This can't continue forever. Someone will find out." "I know, I'm working on it. Just need a few more months to figure out the logistics." "And what about Vera?" His mother's tone was sharp now. "She's been nothing but good to you." "I know, Mom. I know." Jake sounded tired. "It's complicated." I looked up from my phone with a bright smile. "Should we get the bulgogi? I've heard it's amazing here." Jake's mother looked at me with something like pity. Or maybe guilt. I couldn't quite tell. "That sounds perfect," she said in English. Later that night, I downloaded a monitoring app onto Jake's phone while he was in the shower. It wasn't legal exactly, but I'd found a gray area. The app would clone his messages to a cloud account I could access. It would take a few days to start populating data, but I could wait. I'd become very good at waiting. The next weekend, I suggested we visit my friend, bring her dinner and baby gifts. Jake agreed immediately, too enthusiastically. We showed up with takeout and a bag of maternity clothes I'd bought. "You guys are too much," she said, but she was smiling. Looking at Jake just a little too long. Looking at me with that combination of gratitude and guilt that I'd learned to recognize. We sat in her living room, and I watched them try so hard not to watch each other. The way their eyes met when they thought I wasn't looking. How he touched her arm when he handed her a glass of water. Just a second too long. How she blushed and turned away. "This is nice," I said, smiling at both of them. The three of us together, like old times. The irony hung in the air, invisible to them, perfectly clear to me. That night, driving home, Jake reached over and took my hand. "Thanks for being so good to her." "I know this situation is strange. She's my best friend," I said simply. Of course I'd help her. Still, not everyone would be so understanding about their friend having a baby as a single mom. I looked out the window at the passing streetlights. Everyone deserves support, no matter what choices they make. He squeezed my hand, and I let him, counting down the days until I had everything I needed. The monitoring app started feeding me data within 48 hours. I'd access it at work, locked in my office with the door closed, scrolling through messages that confirmed everything. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. She's working late." I hate lying to her. "When can we stop pretending?" "The baby kicked today. Wish you could have felt it." Each message was a small death, but I saved every single one. Screenshots automatically uploaded to a secure cloud account. Evidence. Protection. But I needed more than messages. I needed proof that would hold up anywhere. So I hired a private investigator, using money from an account Jake didn't know about. I'd opened it 3 years ago, something that had seemed paranoid at the time but now felt like prophecy. The investigator's name was Quinn. She was in her 50s, professional, discreet. We met at a coffee shop 2 towns over. "How long has this been going on?" she asked, taking notes. "At least 3 months that I know of. Probably longer." "What do you need from me?" "Everything. Documentation, photos, timeline. I'm a lawyer. I know what will matter in court." She nodded. "This isn't my first divorce case. I'll be thorough." "She's pregnant. The baby is his. Do you want me to document that connection?" "Yes, but carefully. I don't want either of them to know they're being watched yet." "They won't." Over the next month, Quinn sent me regular updates. Photos of Jake's car outside my friend's apartment at odd hours. Credit card receipts from hotels. A timeline that stretched back 8 months, not 3. They'd been careful, but not careful enough. The most damaging evidence came from the messages I was collecting, including deleted conversations they thought were safe. "I love you. I've loved you since college. I should have married you instead." Once I've told her, "We can finally be together." "What about the house?" "My lawyer says it'll be split, but I'm okay with that. You're worth it." I read that last message 3 times, sitting in my car in the office parking garage. My lawyer. He'd already started planning his exit, his new life. While I'd been making him dinner, he'd been strategizing how to leave me. The anger was a living thing inside me, but I channeled it into action. I opened a separate bank account at a different institution, started transferring money in small amounts that wouldn't trigger alerts. Not stealing, just protecting what was mine. I removed my grandmother's jewelry from our safe deposit box, along with important documents, stored them in a safe deposit box at another bank, one in my name only. I made copies of tax returns, investment statements, property deeds, everything that showed what we owned together, what I was entitled to. "You're better at this than most of my clients," Quinn said during one of our meetings. "Most people are too emotional to think strategically." "I'm emotional," I admitted. "I'm just good at waiting to fall apart." At home, the charade continued. Jake had started dropping hints about changes coming, about maybe wanting to move somewhere new, start fresh. "What brought this on?" I asked one evening, as we sat on the couch. "Just thinking about life, about what we want. If this is really it for us." The words hung there, and I could see him working up to something, testing the waters. "Are you happy, Vera?" he asked quietly. It was the first honest question he'd asked me in months. I thought about lying, maintaining the illusion, but something in me couldn't quite manage it. "I thought I was," I said carefully. "But lately I've been wondering if happy is the same as comfortable. If maybe I've been settling." He looked surprised, like he'd never considered that I might have doubts too. "Have you thought about what you'd want? If things were different?" "Freedom," I said, and meant it. "I think I'd want to feel free again." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that." We sat in silence for a while, and I realized this was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. Both of us circling around the truth, neither brave enough to say it directly. But I didn't need him to be brave. I just needed him to stay complacent while I finished building my case. That night, after he fell asleep, I logged into the cloud account and reviewed everything. Messages, photos, financial records, timeline documentation. Quinn's reports were meticulous. The case practically built itself. But I wasn't ready yet. There was still one more piece I needed. One final, undeniable proof that would end any argument about whose baby she was carrying. And I was getting close to figuring out how to get it. She was 18 weeks along when she decided to have a baby shower. Early, but she wanted to celebrate before she got too uncomfortable. I offered to help plan everything. "You don't have to do all this," she said as we addressed invitations at her apartment. "I want to," I assured her. She smiled, one hand on her bump. "I keep thinking he'll want to be here, that he'll change his mind about staying hidden. Would you want that?" "I don't know anymore. Sometimes I think about just telling everyone, but it's too complicated. Too many people would get hurt." The shower was at a restaurant with a private room. 20 women showed up, friends and family, all cooing over baby clothes and tiny shoes. I'd chosen my outfit carefully. A blue dress Jake once said brought out my eyes. I wanted to look good. Jake stopped by, supposedly just to drop off a gift. But his timing was perfect, right when he'd texted me saying he had a client meeting. Another lie. "I won't stay long," he said, handing my friend a wrapped box. "You didn't have to get me anything," she said, but her eyes were bright. "Of course I did. Your family." I watched them from across the room. His hand lingered on her shoulder. Her fingers brushed his as she took the gift. The way they looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. But I was always watching now. Jake's mother arrived 20 minutes later. I hadn't known she was invited. In Korean, she asked my friend, "How are you really feeling?" "Scared," my friend replied in Korean. She spoke it too, another secret. "But happy. Is that wrong?" "No, dear. Though perhaps it should be." Jake's mother glanced at me. I took photos throughout the afternoon, but I made sure to capture other things too. Jake's hand on my friend's lower back, the way they stood too close. His mother watching them with concern, then watching me with pity. When I suggested a group photo, I positioned myself next to Jake, smiled at the camera like everything was perfect. Like I didn't notice how his body angled toward her. "Perfect," I said, checking the shot. Evidence, documented and dated. After Jake left, I helped clean up. My friend was tired, overwhelmed. "Thank you," she said. "You're the best friend anyone could ask for." The words should have hurt more, but I'd gone numb to that pain. "That's what friends do," I said. That night, I uploaded all the photos to my secure drive and emailed Quinn. "I need to obtain a DNA sample from my husband. Legally. What are my options?" She replied within an hour. "Get me something he's used and discarded. A cup from a coffee shop, something public, abandoned property. I'll handle the rest." Simple, legal, brilliant. The next evening, I suggested we go out for dinner. Jake agreed easily. We went to a restaurant downtown, ordered wine and pasta, had easy conversation like we used to. "This is nice," he said, reaching for my hand. "We should do this more often." "We should," I agreed. And I meant it. This was the last nice moment we'd probably ever have. I wanted to remember it. After dinner, as we waited for the valet, I excused myself to the restroom. On my way back, I quietly picked up Jake's water glass from our table, wrapping it in the napkin I'd brought. The waitress gave me a strange look. But I smiled and kept walking. In the car, I texted Quinn with one hand, the glass secured in my purse. Got it. Her response came at the next red light. Bring it to my office tomorrow morning, early. Jake noticed me smiling at my phone. Good news? Just a work thing, I said. But yes, very good news. He smiled back, oblivious, and I realized this was the moment. The last piece clicking into place. Soon, I'd have everything I needed. Scientific proof, documented evidence, a timeline of betrayal. Soon, I could stop pretending. The thought was terrifying and exhilarating, like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing you have to jump, but not quite ready to let go. But I was getting there. Every day, every new piece of evidence brought me closer to the edge. And when I finally jumped, I was taking them both down with me. Quinn delivered the DNA sample to a reputable lab while I started consulting divorce attorneys. I met with 3 over 2 weeks. The third one got it. Her name was Blair. You want this clean? She said, reviewing my documentation. Fast, fair, but definitive. Yes, I don't want a war. I just want what's mine and I want out. She nodded, flipping through Quinn's reports, the bank statements, the timeline. With evidence like this, we can push for a favorable settlement. Infidelity matters in this state. How long? If he doesn't contest, 6 months minimum. If he fights, could be over a year. He'll fight, I said. Once he realizes I've known all along. Blair smiled. Then we make sure our case is airtight. Over the next week, I systematically prepared, opened another bank account for my income, transferred my half of our joint savings. Not stealing, Blair assured me, just protecting my assets. I removed more items from the house. Photo albums, my mother's china, books I'd collected. Small things Jake wouldn't notice. I stored everything at my sister's. Are you okay? My sister asked. You seem different? I'm fine, I said, just making changes. She didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. I scheduled an appointment with a therapist Blair recommended, someone who specialized in trauma from infidelity. I needed to start processing this before it exploded. Needed a safe place to fall apart. The therapist was younger than I expected, maybe in her 40s with kind eyes. Tell me what brings you here. So I did. All of it. The Korean conversation, the pregnancy, the months of pretending, the evidence I'd gathered, the way I felt like I was fracturing but couldn't let anyone see. How are you holding up? I don't know, I admitted. Some days I'm fine, focused. Other days I can barely breathe. I look at him and I can't believe I ever loved him. You couldn't have known, couldn't I? Were there signs I missed? Red flags I ignored? Maybe, but that doesn't make this your fault. We talked for an hour about betrayal, trust, the specific pain of being deceived by the people closest to you. She didn't offer easy solutions, just listened, helped me untangle the emotions I'd been suppressing. What you're doing, the way you're handling this, she said as I left. It's smart. You're protecting yourself. That matters. 10 days after I'd given Quinn the glass, the DNA results arrived. I was at work, door locked. My hands shook as I opened the attachment. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. I'd known, but knowing and having scientific proof were different things. This made it real. I forwarded the results to Blair and Quinn, then saved 3 copies in different secure locations. This was it. The final piece. The evidence that would end my marriage and destroy a 15-year friendship. That evening, I went home and cooked dinner like always. Jake came in, kissed my cheek, asked about my day. We ate pasta and talked about a movie we might see that weekend. Normal, routine, a complete lie. After dinner, as I loaded the dishwasher, Jake came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. I love you, he said quietly. He hadn't said those words in months. The timing felt significant. I love you too, I said automatically, the words hollow. He held on for a moment, then let go. I'm going to take a shower. When I heard the water running, I pulled out my phone and opened my secure folder. Everything was there. Messages, photos, financial records, DNA results, Quinn's report, complete documentation of betrayal. I had everything I needed. The only question was when to use it. Blair had suggested waiting until after the baby was born, making the confrontation less complicated. But I wasn't sure I could maintain the act that long. I was running out of pretend smiles. running out of energy it took to look at them and not scream. I texted Blair. How much longer should I wait? Her response came quickly. Until you're ready. But not too long. You're carrying all this weight alone. It'll break you eventually. She was right. I could feel the cracks forming, spreading through me like ice fracturing under pressure. Soon, something would give. I just had to make sure I controlled when and how it broke. 2 weeks later, I invited everyone to dinner at our house. Jake, my pregnant friend, his parents, and 2 other couples. A normal gathering. This is nice, Jake said as we prepped. We haven't done this in a while. I thought it would be good. With the baby coming, changes ahead. He looked at me strangely, trying to figure out if there was hidden meaning. There was, but he couldn't see it yet. Everyone arrived around 7. My friend looked beautiful despite her exhaustion. 6 months pregnant now. Jake's mother hugged me tightly, holding on too long. You look tired, she said. Just busy with work, I replied. In Korean, I added, but I'm managing fine. Her eyes widened. I'd never spoken Korean to her before. I just smiled and moved to greet the other guests. During dinner, I steered conversation toward loyalty, honesty, trust. Not obviously, just gentle questions about what makes relationships work, how people handle betrayal. I think honesty is everything, one friend said. Once trust is broken, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. But forgiveness requires truth, I said quietly. You can't forgive what you don't know about. I felt Jake's eyes on me. Across the table, my friend shifted uncomfortably. After dinner, as everyone relaxed with wine, I suggested we watch something. There's this Korean drama I've been into lately. Anyone mind? Jake froze. Since when do you watch Korean dramas? Oh, for a couple years now. I find them fascinating. The language is beautiful. His mother set down her wine glass. In Korean, she said to Jake, Did you know about this? No, he replied in Korean. She never mentioned it. Maybe she understands more than we think, his father said, also in Korean. I kept my expression neutral, searching for the right show, but I could feel the tension radiating from them. Here we go, I said, starting an episode. This one's about a woman who discovers her husband has been lying to her. The coincidence was too pointed. Jake knew it. His mother knew it. But they couldn't say anything without admitting why it hit so close to home. We watched for 20 minutes. The room was silent except for the dialogue. How devastating, I said during a tense scene, to discover that the people you trust most have been deceiving you. My friend stood up abruptly. I'm not feeling well. I think I should go. Oh no, I said. Let me get Jake to drive you home. I can drive myself. You shouldn't, not pregnant and not feeling well. Jake, can you make sure she gets home safely? I watched the panic in both their eyes. Being alone together right now, with this new uncertainty, was the last thing they wanted. Of course, Jake said stiffly. After they left, I made coffee and dessert. Jake's mother approached me in the kitchen. How long? She asked in Korean. How long what? I replied in the same language. How long have you known? Since the day you visited in September. When Jake told you she was 8 weeks pregnant and that I'd never find out. Her face went white. Vera, You tried to warn me. That hug when you left. Thank you for that. But you should have tried harder. What are you going to do? What I should have done months ago. I picked up the dessert tray. Excuse me. An hour later, everyone had left except Jake's parents. We should talk, his father said. Not yet. Soon, but not tonight. They left, his mother looking back at me with something like respect mixed with fear. Jake returned an hour later. I was in bed reading when he came in. She okay? Yeah. Just tired. Good. He got ready for bed in silence, then slid under the covers. You speak Korean? Yes. How long? Does it matter? He didn't answer. We lay there in the dark, and I knew he was calculating what I'd heard, what I knew, how much danger he was in. That show, he said. That wasn't a coincidence. No. Vera, we should talk. Not yet. But soon. Very soon. The next morning, Quinn sent me a photo. Jake's car outside my friend's apartment at 2 a.m., 3 hours after he'd supposedly dropped her off and come straight home. They'd panicked, gotten sloppy, made exactly the kind of mistake I'd been waiting for. I forwarded the photo to Blair with a simple message. I'm ready. Let's do this. The week after the dinner party, everything shifted. Jake became paranoid, watching me constantly. My friend stopped answering calls. Jake's mother texted, We need to talk. I ignored her. I met with Blair to finalize the divorce papers. Given the evidence, I think he'll take it, she said. Fighting would mean public record. That's what I'm counting on. When? My friend was 7 months pregnant. Part of me wanted to wait, but I couldn't carry this weight anymore. Soon, but I want to confront them first. I spent the next days planning. I reserved a table at the best restaurant in town for Sunday lunch, public enough to prevent a scene, private enough to be devastating. I invited my parents, Jake's parents, my friend, and Jake. Told each different reasons. None knew the others were coming. The night before, Jake tried again. Whatever you think is happening, you're wrong. Am I? Vera, please. Tomorrow. We'll talk tomorrow. I never meant to hurt you, he said. Yes, you did. You just didn't mean to get caught. That hit him. The moment he realized I knew everything. How long? He whispered. Long enough. He left, probably calling my friend, calling his mother, trying damage control. But it was too late. I went through my checklist. Blair had the papers ready. Quinn's report complete. My apartment rented. Belongings moved. Bank accounts separated. Everything in place. I texted my sister. Tomorrow, everything changes. I'll explain after. But I'm okay. She called immediately. What's happening? I'm leaving Jake, and I'm making sure everyone knows what he did. We talked for an hour. She was angry, supportive, proud. Sunday morning, I wore my best dress, the dark green one, did my makeup carefully, looked in the mirror. Stronger, sharper, ready. Jake watched me with anxiety. What's this really about? You'll see. We drove in silence, his hands white-knuckled on the wheel. He knew something was coming. Vera, if you're planning to what? Tell the truth? This isn't fair. Fair? I almost laughed. You want to talk about fair? We pulled into the parking lot. My parents were arriving. His parents. My friend, getting out slowly, hand on her belly. Everyone's here, I said. Shall we? Jake's face went white. Don't do this. It's already done. This is just the reveal. I got out and walked toward the restaurant. My parents reached me first. Sweetheart, what's going on? My mother asked. Why are Jake's parents here? You'll understand in a few minutes. We gathered at the entrance. The confusion was palpable. My friend looked terrified. Jake's mother looked resigned. The hostess led us to a large table in a semi-private corner. Perfect. I took my seat and smiled. Thank you all for coming. Let's order first, and then I have something important to share. Jake's hand shook as he picked up his menu. My friend couldn't look at hers. While we ordered, I felt calm. 5 months of carrying this secret, and now it was almost over. The waiter brought water, took our orders, left us alone. I reached into my purse and pulled out the folder. Inside were copies of everything. DNA test, messages, photos, financial records, Quinn's investigation. Jake saw the folder and closed his eyes. Before our food arrives, I said, I need to tell you all something. My voice was steady, was clear. This was the moment I'd been building toward. The moment where the mask finally came off and everyone saw the truth. Jake reached across the table toward me. Vera, please. I moved my hand away. No, you've had 5 months to tell the truth. Now it's my turn. My father looked between us, confused. What's going on? I looked around the table. My parents, bewildered. His parents, pale with knowledge. My friend, tears already forming. Jake, defeated. I'm going to tell you, I said quietly. I'm going to tell you everything. And I was ready. After months of silence, of pretending, of carrying their secrets, I was finally ready to speak. I took a breath and began. For the past 2 years, I've been secretly learning Korean, I said, looking at Jake's mother. Every conversation you thought was private, I understood every word. She nodded slowly. She'd suspected. That's how I found out in September. Jake told you his girlfriend was 8 weeks pregnant? That I'd never find out. I turned to my parents. The girlfriend is sitting at this table. She's carrying his child. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's face went red. I pulled out the first document. This is a DNA test. It shows 99.9% probability that Jake is the father of my best friend's baby. I placed copies in front of everyone. My friend started sobbing. Jake sat frozen. I've known for 5 months. I've spent that time documenting everything. Every lie. Every secret meeting. Every hotel receipt. I pulled out more papers, messages, photos, financial records. They've been together for at least 9 months, planning their future while I played the supportive wife and caring friend. My father stood. Jake, is this true? Jake's voice was barely a whisper. I never wanted it to happen this way. How did you want it to happen? I asked. When were you planning to tell me? Or were you just going to keep lying? I was going to tell you. I just needed time. Time for what? To cover your tracks? You already consulted a lawyer. I have proof. I turned to my friend, crying so hard she could barely breathe. 15 years of friendship, you were my maid of honor, and you still did this. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to happen. Yes, you did. You've been in love with him since college. I found your old journals when I was moving my things. You wrote about him constantly, about how I didn't deserve him. She looked shocked. I had keys, remember? I used them to gather evidence. This wasn't accidental. You pursued him deliberately. Jake's mother spoke. Vera, we are so sorry. You were protecting your son. I understand. What I don't understand is how he could do this. I pulled out the divorce papers and placed them in front of Jake. These outline our settlement. Fair, given the circumstances. You have 1 week to review and sign. If you don't, I file in court and all of this becomes public record. Jake picked up the papers with shaking hands. Vera, please, can we talk privately? No. You had months to talk privately and chose to lie. Now everyone knows the truth. My sister, who I'd called that morning, appeared at my side. Your things are already at Mom and Dad's. I stood. I'm done here. Jake, you'll be served the official divorce papers tomorrow. My lawyer will be in touch. I looked at my friend one last time. I hope he was worth it. I hope the life you've built on lies makes you happy. But when someone shows you they're capable of betrayal, believe them. I turned to my parents. Can we go? My mother was already standing. My father put his arm around me. As we walked toward the exit, Jake called after me. Vera, wait, please. I stopped but didn't turn. There's nothing left to say. You made your choice, now live with it. I walked out into the sunlight. Behind me, chaos. My friend's sobs. Jake's mother speaking rapidly in Korean. A family imploding. But I kept walking. Into the parking lot. Into my future. My mother hugged me tight outside. I'm so proud of you. I should have done it sooner. You did it when you were ready. That's what matters. My father was silent, tears on his face. My sister squeezed my hand. What now? She asked. Now? I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in months. Now I start over. We drove to my parents' house. My things were there, boxes stacked in my old bedroom. My mother made tea. My father sat with his arm around me. My sister kept shaking her head, still processing. How did you stay so calm? She asked. For 5 months? I had to. I needed the evidence. I needed to be smart about this. And the Korean? You really learned it without anyone knowing? I watched a lot of dramas. I smiled for the first time that day. Never thought they'd be the thing that saved my marriage. Or ended it, I guess. My phone started buzzing. Jake calling. Then my friend. Then Jake's mother. I turned it off. They'll try to fix this, my mother said. They'll apologize, make promises. I know, but I'm done. Some things can't be fixed. That evening, lying in my childhood bed, I felt strange. Not happy exactly, but free. The weight I'd been carrying for 5 months was gone. The pretending was over. Everyone knew the truth now. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. The divorce process, untangling our lives, moving forward. But tonight, I could just breathe. I'd done it. I'd faced them. I'd spoken the truth. And I'd walked away. It was enough. The first 48 hours were chaos. My phone exploded with notifications. 73 text messages, 42 missed calls, 15 voicemails. Jake's messages alternated between denial, anger, and desperate pleading. You're overreacting. We can work through this. How could you humiliate me like that? Please, Vera, I love you. Don't throw away 7 years. I deleted them all without responding. My friend's messages were worse. Long paragraphs about how sorry she was, how pregnancy hormones made her confused. You have to understand, I didn't plan this. It just happened. Please think about the baby. Your godchild needs you. He told me you two were having problems. I thought I was helping. That last one almost made me laugh. Helping. I blocked her number. On Tuesday, she showed up at my parents' house. I watched through the window as she rang the doorbell repeatedly. My mother had to tell her to leave. She's not ready to see you, my mother said firmly, and I don't know if she ever will be. Please, just let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You know what you did. My friend broke down, sobbing on the porch until my father came out. She left a handwritten letter that I tore up without reading. Jake's parents tried differently. They sent flowers with a card in English and Korean, apologizing. Jake's mother left a voicemail. Vera, I am so sorry. I should have told you immediately. You deserved better. You deserved the truth. I saved that voicemail, the only genuine apology I'd received. Blair called Tuesday evening. Jake signed the papers. Already? He knows he has no leverage. Fighting would cost more, both financially and in reputation. So it's done? In 6 months. That's the mandatory waiting period. But yes, essentially done. 6 months. Half a year until I was officially single. Jake tried once more Wednesday. He showed up at my office. I gave him 5 minutes in a conference room. He looked terrible. "I'm sorry," he said. "I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, repeatedly, for months. I know I was a coward. I should have ended things with you first. But I thought—" He stopped. "I don't know what I thought. You thought you could have both, the stable marriage and the exciting affair." He nodded, unable to meet my eyes. "How did you stay so calm? For all those months?" "Because I had to. Because falling apart would have given you control. I deserve that." "Yes, you do." I stood. "Is there anything else? Are you okay?" "I will be. Eventually." I walked toward the door. "Goodbye, Jake." "Vera?" "Wait." He grabbed my arm, then let go when I stiffened. "I want you to know, I did love you. That's the saddest part," I said quietly. "I don't think you ever really did. You loved the idea of me, the stability, but you never loved me enough to be honest. And that's not love at all." I left him there and went back to work. Later, in the bathroom, I cried for 5 minutes. Then I washed my face and returned to my desk. That evening, my therapist asked how I was handling everything. I'm angry. Not at them being together, but at the lies. At being made to look like a fool. Those are valid feelings. I keep thinking about signs I missed. Ways I could have prevented this. You couldn't have prevented this. They made their choices. All you can control is how you move forward. Moving forward. What did that look like? By Friday, 1 week after the restaurant, the messages had mostly stopped. Jake had moved into a rental. My friend had stopped contacting me. Jake's parents had given me space. The chaos was settling. The dust was clearing. I was still standing. That night, my sister came over with wine and takeout. We sat in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by unpacked boxes. "Do you regret how you did it? The public confrontation?" I thought carefully. "No. They made me complicit in their lies by keeping me in the dark. I needed everyone to know the truth. I needed witnesses." "Fair enough." She poured more wine. "What's next?" "Next, I find an apartment. Get settled. Focus on work. Eventually, figure out who I am outside of this marriage." "You're going to be okay," she said. "Better than okay." I wanted to believe her. Some days I almost did. The divorce process took 3 months. Blair handled most of it, but I had to be present for key moments. Jake's lawyer tried contesting some terms initially. Blair shut that down by threatening to make everything public. After that, they stopped fighting. The judge reviewed everything in a closed hearing. The messages, photos, DNA test, financial records. She didn't seem shocked. "Mr. Cooper," she said, "given the evidence, I'm approving the settlement as written. You should consider yourself fortunate." He nodded, staring at his hands. I felt nothing. The final decree would be issued in 6 months, but the hard part was done. Clean, final. My friend tried suing me for invasion of privacy. Blair destroyed the case in the first hearing, proving everything was obtained legally. The suit was dismissed. 2 months after the restaurant, she found me at the coffee shop where I worked Saturday mornings. 8 months pregnant now, moving slowly, looking exhausted. She sat down without asking. "I need to tell you the truth, the real truth. I know the truth. Not all of it." She looked down at her coffee. "I've been in love with Jake since college, since that summer when the 3 of us were inseparable. I know, I found your journals, but you don't know why. You don't know what it was like watching you two. You had everything so easy. The law degree, the job, the perfect family, the perfect life, and him. I felt something cold settle. So this was about me? Not him? Both." She looked up and I saw something ugly there. "I wanted to prove I could be chosen, that I wasn't just your sidekick, your supporting character. I wanted someone to choose me over perfect Vera. So you destroyed a marriage to prove a point? I thought he loved me. I thought once you knew, he'd leave you and we'd be together, that I'd finally have what you had. And how's that working out?" She laughed bitterly. "He barely calls, says he needs space. The baby's due in 3 weeks and I don't know if he'll be there." I should have felt satisfaction, but I just felt tired. "What did you expect? You saw what he's capable of. I thought I was special. You weren't. You were just convenient. Now you're stuck raising his child while he figures out his next move." She started crying. "I ruined everything. I lost you. I lost myself. For a fantasy. for an idea of a life you thought you wanted. I stood. I can't forgive you. Maybe someday, years from now, but not today. I understand. No, you don't. You don't understand what it's like to have your best friend betray you like this. I did love you, she whispered. That part was real. Then you have a strange way of showing love. I left her there and didn't look back. The final court date came 3 months after that. Jake and I sat on opposite sides. He'd lost weight, looked older. The judge signed the papers. 7 years of marriage dissolved. We walked out separately, no final words. Just an ending. Blair met me outside. How do you feel? Free. Sad. Relieved. Angry. All of it. That sounds about right. She handed me a folder. Keep it somewhere safe. In case he tries something. In case you need to remember you did the right thing. That you were strong enough to choose yourself. That night I went back to my apartment. 1 bedroom. Hardwood floors. East-facing windows. Mine. Just mine. No shared space. No joint decisions. No compromises. I poured wine and sat by the window, watching city lights. My phone buzzed. My sister. Heard it's official. How are you? I'm okay. Really okay. And I was. Not healed entirely, but okay. I'd survived the betrayal, the confrontation, the divorce. Changed, but not broken. The woman who'd married Jake 7 years ago was gone. The woman who'd trusted blindly, who'd settled for comfortable, who'd ignored her instincts. In her place was someone harder, someone who knew her worth, someone who'd learned that sometimes the strongest thing is walking away. I thought about Jake occasionally, about my former friend, about the baby that would be born into this mess. But I didn't dwell. They'd made their choices. They'd live with consequences. And I'd live with mine. Building something new, something true, something that belonged only to me. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I woke up to sunlight streaming through my east-facing windows. Saturday morning. Nowhere I had to be. I made coffee and stood at the window watching the city wake up. This view felt like mine in a way the old house never had. Every piece of furniture I'd chosen, every book on the shelf I actually wanted to read. No compromises, no shared space that never quite felt like home. Work had been exceptional. Without the emotional drain of a failing marriage, I'd thrown myself into cases with renewed focus. 3 months ago, I'd made junior partner, youngest in the firm's history. My name was going on the letterhead. Yeah. My phone buzzed. My Korean language instructor at the community college. Don't forget, conversation practice tomorrow at 2 Junbidwe Soyo. I smiled and typed back in Korean. Ready. Learning Korean had stopped being a secret shame and started being something I was proud of. I'd joined a K-drama discussion group. Made friends with other students. Next month, I was finally going to South Korea. 2 weeks, just me, exploring Seoul and everything I'd seen in shows for years. My parents said I seemed lighter now. My mother commented she hadn't realized how much I'd been shrinking myself to fit into that marriage until she saw me expand out of it. The doorbell rang. My sister with coffee and pastries. Breakfast delivery, also news. Ran into someone at the grocery store. My former friend. How'd she look? Tired, alone. Baby's 3 months old. Jake sees the kid every other weekend. No relationship. No happy family. I sipped my coffee, trying to find satisfaction in their unhappiness. But mostly, I felt nothing. I genuinely don't care what happens to either of them anymore. That's growth, my sister said. We ate breakfast and talked about her kids, my trip, a movie she wanted to see. Normal things, life things, nothing to do with betrayal or the past. Later, I went to therapy. 6 months of weekly sessions had helped me understand my patterns, recognize where I'd ignored my needs. How are you feeling about the Korea trip? My therapist asked. Excited, like I'm honoring the thing that accidentally saved me. The dramas led you to learn Korean, which let you understand the truth. There's poetry in that. Sunday morning, conversation practice. 6 of us in a coffee shop, chatting in Korean about our weeks and favorite shows. One guy, about my age, smiled at me a lot. I smiled back. After class, he asked if I wanted to get lunch sometime. I said yes. Not because I was ready for anything serious, but because I was open to possibility. Ready to start from honesty instead of compromise. That evening, I video called my parents. They looked happy, lighter too. You did a hard thing, my father said. Not just leaving, but the way you handled it. With evidence and planning and strength. I learned from the best. After we hung up, I sat with wine and thought about the past year. The discovery, the investigation, the confrontation, the divorce, the rebuilding. Who I'd been a year ago was gone, unhappy but not admitting it, settling for comfortable instead of demanding authentic, ignoring my instincts to keep the peace. In her place was someone harder in some ways, more careful about trust, but also more honest, more willing to walk away from things that didn't serve her, more willing to pursue joy without shame. I didn't forgive them. Not Jake, not my former friend. Some people think forgiveness is necessary for moving forward, but I'd learned it wasn't. What was necessary was letting go of the anger, the bitterness, the constant replaying. I'd let go of the marriage, the friendship, but I didn't have to forgive them to be free. I just had to stop carrying their betrayal like it was mine to hold. Through mutual friends, I'd heard bits. Jake was dating someone new already. My former friend struggled with single motherhood and postpartum depression. His parents had cut him off financially. She'd moved back with her parents. Their lives had gotten smaller, more complicated. Mine had gotten bigger. I had my career, thriving, my family supporting me, my therapy, my hobbies, my apartment, my freedom, which I'd fought for and earned. Some days were still hard. Some nights I still cried, processing the loss of what I'd thought my life would be. But those days were fewer now, farther between. I walked to the window, looking at city lights. Somewhere out there, Jake was living his life. My former friend was raising his child. The life they'd planned together had crumbled. And I was here, with my plans for Korea and my Korean class and my career and my family. Free, honest, strong, not entirely healed maybe, but healing. Building something new from what they'd destroyed. Something entirely, authentically mine. I raised my glass to my reflection in the window. To survival. To strength. To the woman I'd become when I stopped pretending and started choosing myself. The woman staring back smiled. For the first time in a long time, I recognized her completely. She was exactly who she was supposed to be. Finally.